Hey. Yeah, no, it's no trouble at all. Yeah, how you been doing? Oh, very good. Well, I got your message, and I got a few things together. So you want to start, DMing? Yeah. No, I think it's actually a great idea for you. You've been doing a great job in the campaign. You have a firm grasp on, like, the rules, so, like, as far as I know, from my perspective in the DMs for that campaign, you seem to know what you're doing. And yeah, no, I think you're definitely could be ready to start your own campaign. Sounds good. Well, yeah. So I can just, like, give you some tips, or I could, like, I don't know, help you run through and, like, plan the first session. That helpful for you? Yeah? Alright, yeah, no, let's do that then. Alright then. So, let me just grab some paper over here. So, what do you have any idea of, like, first of all, do you have a group yet? Because that is kind of important. You have some people in mind? Okay. So, especially for early on, I would recommend not going above 4 people. Just because it gets more stuff to handle, makes it harder and things like that. You could probably go with 3, but I'd recommend probably about 4. Yeah. Alright. One thing I would recommend doing is for getting people together is pitch it as a one-shot, and kind of like just be like, okay, we're getting together, we're gonna do one session, and we're gonna have some fun playing it. And if you continue on, that's great. If not, you get some experience DMing, and maybe you can set up a more long-term campaign in the future. Because you also don't want to, like, have people, like, committing to a full campaign, even when you're, like, if after one session you're like, actually this isn't for me, I prefer just being a player. Yeah. Yeah, sounds good. Alright. So I don't know, kind of the first thing to think of, like, do you have any, like, adventure ideas? For one session, you probably want to keep it pretty short. Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to, like, go over to, like, this long overarching plot arc. It's probably going to be, like, one, like a medium-sized mystery or something like that. Alright. So I know the campaigns I run are very much, very combat-based. Not combat-based, role-playing based. And you want it to be a bit more like classic dungeon crawler, like combat-based, or do you want to, like, kind of, like, stick with the more role-play-based? Somewhere in the middle? It makes sense. It's a nice easy ground, for beginning to play. Oh, before I forget, can I get you anything to drink? Some tea or anything? I'm not sure this I have mine, but can I get you anything? Okay, I have it. Look at you being prepared and having a water bottle. I'm terrible at bringing a water bottle places. It happens. Well, okay. So, do you have an idea of, like, kind of a world you want to put it in? I mean, for one shot, it is okay just to have, like, not generic RPG, the world we've been playing in, but, like, a generic fantasy world where, like, because for one shot, you don't need to actually build out more than maybe, like, a starting, like, town or area and, like, the immediate surrounding area. Also for one shot, a lot of, like, DMing advice, like, will say, like, oh, don't try to railroad your players, like, for, like, where you do, like, only you try to like be specifically like, okay, don't force your players to go down a specific road and like path of the story. But for one shots, it's probably a bit easier to do. It's more acceptable to do because it's much more confined space. You're not having this overarching campaign narrative. It's more like we're gonna have a concise adventure, and there's some specific beats that you need to follow to like do this adventure. So yeah. All right. Speaking of which, because it's a one shot, because I normally use like when we started the campaign, we just sat down and like did like all of us sat down and did like a full character building together. Yeah. I would recommend not doing that for a one shot just because it would honestly probably take as long to make all the characters as it would like actually run the one shot. So one thing I do as a DM is that I have like just like a file full of, not physical file, it's on my computer, of just kind of like generic characters and things like that I can pull out and bring, like give to people for like one shot. So like maybe you like just like build like a standard party comp of like even if you just want, like you can be more unique, but like just like make sure you have like frontline, healer, and DPS at least, and maybe because it's like a one shot, second DPS or some other mix of those. Just make sure the party is a healer. That's the main thing. But like I have just like a file of a bunch of characters I can pull out a moment's notice if I need to follow a one shot, or even if like I need quick stats for an NPC or something. So if DMing is not something you want to like get into long term, that's something you might want to do. There's also resources for pre-made characters like online and stuff, so you don't need to make it yourself. But I mean, making characters is fun. So yeah. So next up, yeah. So let me know if you want help building those characters, just like figuring out like good party balance and like getting because the most important thing for especially when you're designing a party is making sure the characters are not necessarily balanced for their level, but balanced with each other, because you can always adjust how hard the campaign is. You can't it's much harder to balance when one character is way more powerful than the others and bring the other ones up to their level. Like you can always scale up or scale down the monsters and like add more complexity and stuff, but it's harder to tell to change how people want to do that way. Like you don't want to take away people's powers because then they get salty, and you don't want to like overtly be like giving everyone else more and more stuff because they still might get salty. But it also leads to kind of like unfun gameplay if like one character is like miles ahead of the others. Make sense? Yeah. Alright. Yeah, no, if you want to build them, just like send them over to me for me to look over. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, no, just, I mean, also, if you have any questions at any point, just let me know. I am up at ungodly hours, so if you have a 2 a.m. question, I'm probably awake. Not that I couldn't wait probably till morning, but, I mean, I'll still probably be awake. It's a bad habit. Also, I like helping people with D&D. D&D's fun, believe it or not. I actually play a lot of D&D. But okay, so, let's start talking about the adventure. Okay, so, got the paper here. What are you thinking? Okay. So you just kind of want to like do like a classic, like kind of like rescue mission. Okay. All right. So, what is it? Okay. So, yeah. What is it that what is, so, that's actually a really easy one to put up because obviously you'll probably have a good plot hook, which is like a relative or like a partner of the person that needs to be rescued. It doesn't even have to be a person. It could also be, could have the person being rescued being like, bandits accosted like this merchant stole their precious heirloom. Which can be easier, honestly easier to run because you don't get into like, especially for newer DMs, because when you have like actual hostage situations, that like leads to interesting things where it's like, oh, why did the goblins just let us slaughter all of them when they could have threatened to, I don't know, kill the person we were trying to rescue? And that adds weird things. But if it's like, oh no, the wizard's spell book has been stolen, that there's less of that risk. I mean, granted, you could still like burn the spell book, but it's less of the immediate danger. Okay. You like the wizard's spell book idea? Okay. So wizard's spell book. One thing I just like to point out right now is that because it's a wizard, which is usually probably a more powerful person, you'll probably need a reason of like why the wizard isn't just going in themselves, because you're probably having a bunch of first level characters, and this wizard is probably like, honestly though, if he died, he just got waylaid by a bunch of goblins. He's not a great wizard. Okay, sounds good. Alright, so he's a very powerful wizard who just thinks going into this den of goblins is too too below him. The great and mighty wizard is much himself, even though he's probably just like a third level wizard. Sounds good. Alright, so yeah, what else do we want to do? Okay, so we have this. What do you want to have? So I keep saying goblins, but does it have to be goblins? Okay. Alright, sounds good. I mean, I won't say no to some good kobolds. Kobolds are great. Gotta get those Baldur's Gate vibes going. Those Nash Kalmine memories. Okay, cool. The thing with kobolds is that like, for like a one shot, you could have like a nice, like fun, like over the top, like for not over the top, but like things of kobolds worship dragons. You could have like the in boss be like a relatively weak dragon. Kobolds don't care about how powerful the dragon is. They just care about the most powerful dragon, and it's the most powerful dragon in the area. So you could have just like a young white dragon that's kind of like the final boss of this fight. Yeah. And that's also a reason why they'd want a spellbook, because they're like, sure, the kobolds don't want the spellbook, but the dragon might. So, so, where do you want the players to start? Classic. You're just in and in, when the wizard bursts in, exclaiming how these damned kobolds waylaid him on the road and stole his precious great-grandfather whatever's spellbook. Sounds good. Alright. So does this probably be like a tavern inn, like just like on the road, or is it in a city? Just on the road? Good idea. Less distractions. The roadside thing. So where are the kobolds then? Because like probably you have like, because like from the tavern, like you can do some like things with like their and then when you're on the road itself, you could have like a few encounters if you want. I know that I'll usually do like a skill challenge for like traveling on roads over distances instead of having random encounters and whatnot. But since you're running this in 5th edition, skill counters don't work as well in 5th edition, so you might not want to do a skill challenge. But depending on how long you feel like you need to fill in, you might want to like throw in like, oh, you've been waylaid by wolves or whatnot. Or like a for another one of these parties of kobolds. You could do that while they're traveling. They were attacked by their kobolds, and that's one way they can find the like kobold's lair, by like, I don't know, interrogating one of the kobolds, or if they don't do that, they happen to find like a barely legibly scrawled map that like points to what might be their lair, and you can have like survival checks to like navigate your way to there. Sounds good. The thing is, especially with new players, is that combat takes a while, and especially for one-shots, time is a very important resource, and you don't want you don't want combat encounters for the sake of combat encounters. You kind of want combat encounters for like a reason, like important, like for the sake of times when I'm like actually doing like planned out adventures, I will oftentimes have like 3 main categories of combat encounters, or just honestly just encounters and interactions in general, where you have the top tier is like must have, like the fight with the dragon, like you can't, that's how the adventure ends, you slay the dragon, and you might have another one that then below that you have like things that are like essential to the plot, but not necessarily essential to the plot, but like help the plot along. So like this like attack by the kobolds, that they can help find out where their base is and things like that. And then maybe like a few of the like 1 or 2 of the common encounters like in the actual like caverns and stuff. Yeah. Because like, I mean, it's not like you just like waltz in there and like fight the dragon. Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Yeah, and then the lowest tier is just like a few encounters just in case they're just speeding along and just like going straight through this campaign as fast as they can. Just kind of like slow things down a bit, although that I find that's rarely a problem. So that can always be like additional kobolds in the keep, like wolves on the way back, and yeah, like you get the idea, just like encounters to help like slow it down. Although I often usually just like replacing that if you need to take some time out, like just have like an interesting NPC that they interact with, like for some world building and whatnot. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, I've been talking a lot. Do you have any thoughts on everything so far? Yeah, I mean, you don't like me, like you've been in my campaign, like I don't often like draw full dungeon maps and things like that. I usually have like a few like generic, like here's my cave map for like, I think I have like the 3 different cave maps I have so far. So like, this is you fighting in a cave. This is exactly how the cave map works, but it's like, I don't know, it's just like a JRPG where you get into a common encounter and the battlefield is nothing like the actual place you were, but like that's just the generic cave battlefield, and that's okay. That's okay. I'll stop now. Yeah. So you can do something like that, but since it is a one-shot and you know you're going to this dungeon, it's like, I know with like your campaign, you guys are probably gonna mess it up at some point and never go to this dungeon that I handcrafted this map for like 4 hours making, so I don't bother. But since you know they're gonna be going to this place, you probably could draw it. But there is something to be said by keeping it fluid, or like have all the maps on the same grid. Have them separate, so if you need to add or subtract rooms due to time constraints, you can. Yeah. Like if you want it to be very linear, like the dungeon, like just being like waves of creatures of like different like battlefields and stuff like that, that's totally fine. Maybe throw in a puzzle in one of the rooms. Yeah. Alrighty. Okay. Okay. Next up is treasure. Treasure is important, because people like treasure. Like, though it is kind of awkward in, one-shots, because like the place where you'd get like really cool treasure is usually at the final boss, but people, that's when the campaign ends and they're stopped playing with those characters. I mean, unless you want to pick them up and like do them later. So yeah, you can have some treasure at the end, but usually that's just going to be like an undetermined amount of gold you haul back from Dragon's Lair and like the reward that the wizard promised you. But like maybe like, I don't know, one of the kobolds, like have it be like one of the kobolds that you waylaid has like a better like sword or like dagger for the halfling rogue in the party and something like that. Yeah. Although I would not recommend actually doing a rogue, because rogues are hard to play if you did not build the rogue and know how to play it. That's one thing I forgot to mention when talking about like pre-building characters, is that when like choosing a lot of options and things like that, like I guess 5th edition doesn't really have like feats in the same way, but go with the things that require the least amount of options. So like go for stat boosts that are very passive and don't like require you to like remember what they are. It's more important for things like Pathfinder and things like that, but it's just important like keep the characters as simple as possible, because they're not as intimately familiar with it as unlike if you like built it yourself. Plane heading overhead. Okay. Yeah. Well, do you think this looks like probably like the good like bulk of like the adventure? Like you got monsters, you got thing, you got a plot hook. I mean, you still have to go through and like, I don't know, do all the details, but do you have a copy of the monster manual and like the Dungeon Master's Guide? Yeah, well, in the meantime, if you want to borrow mine, I can go grab it in a minute and get it to you. Yeah. Alright. And if you want for the session, if you want to just like stop by my place beforehand and borrow some miniatures, because I know you don't have a lot and I have a ton because reasons. Yeah, go, feel free. I actually have a fair amount of kobolds. No white dragon though. I actually don't have many dragons. Dragons were rare. Turns out people like dragons. Alright then. Well, hope it all goes well for you. Yeah. Well, if you have any questions, let me know. I am more than happy to help out with you. Yeah. And I will see you on Saturday for our main group. Cool. Alright. Well, I hope to see you then. Let me go grab those books for you in a minute. Yeah. Alright. Well, I'll catch you around.